everybody, welcome to Percussion Axiom TV. I'm your host, Tom Burritt, and this is episode 34, part 2 of a series we're doing on mallets. Today's axiom is know your tools, and last week we took a look at some general information about mallets and kind of different categories that they are, and how it's important to really know how they're built and why they're built and for whom they're built. Today we're going to focus on the sticks that we developed very recently, the Thomas Burritt Mallets through Malletech, and talk to you a little bit about that process and get into some specifics that I think hopefully you'll find helpful. And this way, when people ask me about, tell me about your mallets, I've had some requests, many already, about the sticks and specific information. I can just say, watch episode 34 and you'll know everything you need to know. So, you gotta do this to serve multiple purposes, I guess, right? So anyway, before we get into today's axiom, really excited. In 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to start another interactive piece. Some really great feedback from you guys, and I hope you guys learned a lot from that. And I know I did. It was a really fun experience for me. We're going to have a lot more incentive for more of you to get involved. Hopefully, it's a better time of year for those of you who are in school or teaching a lot and things lighten up towards the summer months. So I'm hoping for much more participation, but I can tell you for sure that there will be much more incentive, and I'm really excited about where we're going with that. So when I know more information, I'll of course share that with you. But give me some feedback. We need something that's going to be really inclusive. That's really the key. We want as many people to do this as possible. So we can't make everybody happy, but something that's kind of fun to play. Maybe something that utilizes the low A up. We love down here, but that can be exclusive to some. So just give me your feedback on that. Maybe nothing too long, or too difficult. So it's really about the process, not so much about the piece. So. And it's hopefully something with some artistic merit, because there's always more to talk about in that case. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are about that, and we'll take it from there. But I'm really excited about where that's going. So on with today's axiom, know your tools. So, it was a really fun experience, much more difficult than I thought it was going to be, and more time-consuming to sort of build these. But it was interesting how it all sort of happened. I mean, basically, Malletech asked me what I liked about what they already make and what I didn't like about what they already make. And so I wrote them, not too long of an email, but some very specific information about what I liked about this and what I didn't like about that. And then we had this other idea, too, along with that, about building a hybrid mallet. And so that's the answer to the question at the end of the last episode. That mallet that I asked, was going to give a prize to, was actually, I think it was Evan Brown who came up to the table and actually got that right. It took you guys a little while. But he was right. It was a prototype to something we were working on for my mallets back in the early stages. And what we were doing with that was kind of exploring the idea of a hybrid mallet. So you know how a mallet with a softer yarn will wear pretty quickly, and then a mallet but would sound really nice as far as on the bar and the contact sound being low. I really like that part of a mallet. And then, but I also like a stick that's not going to wear out too easily. And so those two ideas are sort of dichotomous, if you will. So what we ended up doing was we went with a really soft yarn mixed with a harder yarn that hopefully worked together would give you the benefits of both. Low contact sound, but also it wouldn't wear out too quickly. So early prospects of that were really promising, and just never quite worked. So, we just had too many problems with the yarn tearing off, or we're kind of working our way around the ball, and too loose, too heavy. They were kind of clunky. So never quite panned out, but it was it was something that we learned a lot from, and we tried. You never know how these things are going to work out. Now someone's going to steal the idea and probably make millions, and that's the way it goes. But anyway, we gave it a shot. So we kept the original soft yarn and just decided to work with that in the end. So that's kind of where we ended up. But I wanted something with good weight. Something that was multi-tonal. We talked about that in the last episode. Something that, gives me more than one sound if I utilize them the right way, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then something that also has, some contact sound, enough contact sound, so it's not too fluffy, but something that also just does a slap on the bar either. We didn't want that. And so I really think that's what we've got going here. So that's kind of what we're after. Now let's talk a little bit about how we did that. I already mentioned about the hybrid, how that didn't work out, but we ended up going with 3 different hardnesses. And that's really mainly because I always use, no matter what mallets I'm using, I almost always use a slightly harder mallet or set of mallets up on this end towards the upper range, and a slightly softer mallet in my left, maybe my number 1 slot. And so, these are different hardnesses of 11, 14, and 19, because I'm almost always using them interchangeably. Maybe a 14 and 3 19s, or 11 and 3 14s, or so I'm always using them that way, and that's sort of how they're designed, and that's important to know. because, well, we also did want, that said, we also did want them to sound pretty equally good all the way through. So there isn't a set of these that won't really work on some place of the instrument. These are the 11s, and they still sound pretty decent up there. And, of course, sound really nice down on this register. And then the 19s, as long as you don't overplay, will actually work okay down here, down in this lower part of the instrument. So that was the idea about the three different harnesses of them. And so far, that's working pretty well. One really difficult part, the hardest part of the process, really, was deciding on the color. And that sounds ridiculous, right? But picking the right color was actually pretty excruciating. But I think where we ended up was really good. So let's talk about some problems that we had in creating that. Okay, so under here, because I wanted a heavy mallet, is a plastic core. And, it's pretty big. It's almost more of a disc. And that presented a lot of problems with when you want to use a softer yarn with that core poking through and really working its way through the yarn. So to counteract that, we had to really deal with tension issues. Too loose a tension, and the mallet sort of implodes on itself, and all the yarn ends up pushing away from that ball. Too tight a mallet, and then we don't get that nice contact sound we're looking for. So that was a really difficult process too. That's something that really took me by surprise. So I think we've got all of these pretty much at the right tension, so they don't fall apart, right? But they also have a nice softer attack on the bar. Okay, so let's talk about how to use these. Okay, that's a very important part of designing a mallet. I mean, even if they're not mine, even if they're like Gordon's mallets or Mike Burritt's mallets or whatever, you have to understand how that player plays a little bit to really utilize their sticks well. And actually, the Stevens mallet, I think, is even the best example. I hardly ever hear anyone play well with those because typically they overplay them. And you can definitely overplay these too, all right? These are meant to really work at low heights almost all the time. So if you walk around with these, playing them really high, they're going to wear out very, very quickly, and you're going to be unhappy. And they're going to sound too harsh because that plastic core is just going to be ripping through too much. So rather than using height to get louder, just practice crescendos from just gripping a little bit more and pressing into the bar. So here's two examples of how you can use these. Here's one with just stick height, increasing my volume, and then the other with just my intensity in the bar. And you'll hear quite a different sound. So here's just velocity and height. So you can hear with this that as I really use more velocity, that the sound pointins and it actually gets a bit brighter. But if I stay relaxed, it doesn't point, doesn't get too edgy. So here's both of those. So here's if I grip a little bit, if I just relax, closer together. So that's what I mean about multi-tonal. Okay, so one of those I just was really relaxed on, and the sound stays warm. But if I really press into the bar and use a little attention in my hands, let me get a little more pointed sound. That's what I really like about a multi-tonal mallet. Be careful of the 19s. The 19s are pretty hard. Okay, so you can easily overplay these. That's very, very important. You want to make sure that you stay low. Get your volume from pressing, not from way up here. This is going to be too bright. So these mallets I actually kind of designed in part to play Mirage. I think they really work well for something like this. They roll nicely and they really dig in up here. So on, whatever that lick is. So anyway, that's a little bit about sort of the design behind these. Don't overplay them. Don't practice with them unless you want to keep buying new ones. Hey, you want to keep buying new ones? That's fine with me, right? Because that's good for me in the end, right? But get a different mallet like the Concerto series or something that is more durable when you practice, and save these for your performances or special performances. Yeah, so I think that's about it. So a lot of great comments from the last episode. I hope this helps figure out sort of what my mallets are all about. So today's question is about the next interactive process. I want to hear from you about what your ideas are as far as how we can interact and what piece we can learn, what would be good, and yeah, and of course any other time you guys want to let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, anything I can do to make you guys spread the word. That's really important, because I want you guys to be telling your friends and getting the word out about the show and everything. So, all right, so that's today's episode. Thanks so much. Hope you learned a little bit about these sticks. It's been a lot of fun for me, and thank you so much.